What behavior is this?
Just because we are dressed up in a suit does not mean we cannot
Yes,
go to
but
the
we
street.
know you are a hooligan.
We have spent
You
our
are a
time in the
hooligan.
theaters.
You are a
We
hooligan.
have to include income earned from buying and selling nyash.
The last tax that I want to introduce is called the Anguka Nayo Act.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, sir.
Just madam.
Ladies, the Gen Zs are our children. They are educated. They are informed. They are criminal. They are energetic.
Put your hands together for Honorable Ruth Nyambura. And the Honorable Titus Mutai. All right. They are ready, you guys. Are you ready? All right. So, first listen, you decorum. Sirs, decorum. Can we say one more time, Thank you. Where? All right. So, to my two ministers, I'll start with you, Titus. You'll go first after, and then Ruth. How do you intend to raise the money for this budget, please?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, sir.
Just madam.
Ladies,
Just madam.
Yes, Madam Speaker, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed citizens and fellow Kenyans. Today, I stand before you as the architect of our nation's fiscal destiny. As your finance minister, I assure you that the budget proposals that I'm about to read are not merely numbers on a spreadsheet. They are the symphony of progress, the crescendo of prosperity, and the allegro of innovation. In line with our government agenda to create opportunities for all, we have proposals to increase our efficiency in revenue collection. We shall be proposing more tax measures to fund our education, agriculture, manufacturing, healthcare, and last but not least, corruption. So you might ask, how are we going to raise this revenue? Madam Speaker, sir.
Madam, just madam.
Yes, Madam Speaker, sir. Extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. That is why we've gone out of our way to prepare a Gen Z and feminist-friendly budget in line with our manifesto that prioritizes the youth of this country and the women of Kenya. The Gen Zs are our children. They are the future of this country. They are educated. They are informed. They are criminal. They are energetic. They are energetic. Our budget policy will ensure that the Kenyans have access to government services and make the cost of corruption affordable for the underprivileged Kenyans. Every big dream is made up of very many small dreams. And Madam Speaker, sir,
Madam, but just madam.
Yes, Madam Speaker, sir. Ours is a big dream that will be funded through small taxes here and there. We will be introducing new taxes such as the dowry tax at 40% of the cost of the woman. Unemployment tax will be collected directly from M-Pesa transactions. We shall be proposing several amendments to the income duty to include income earned from buying and selling nyash. We will also be proposing a raft of amendments to the Kenya Anti-Corruption Act to ensure we raise the amount of budgeted corruption from 2 billion shillings every day to 5 billion shillings every day. This increase from 2 billion shillings, Madam Speaker, sir, will give us an additional raise of 3 billion that will be used to fight the fight against corruption, because corruption fights back. So we will have 3 billion to fight back when corruption fights back. Those are my proposals. I'm more interested into getting the specific aspects of, I'm looking forward to getting into the specific aspects, sector by sector, Madam Speaker, sir. Thank you very much. I beg to move.
Thank Titus. Just Madam, though. Let's remember that. All right. Thank you, Titus. Now, Ruth, tell us, how do you intend to raise money for this budget?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, babes. Babes, you know...
Just Madam. Thank you. No. Dare? Thank you.
We are Gen Z, we can call you babes. Good evening, honorable members of the House, all esteemed guests, and all treasonees and criminals following us online. We are gathered here because we are at a fork road in this country. And after intentional deliberations with the Finance Committee and much welcomed and appreciated public participation with the Gen Z through the GOK Twitter space, we came up with this financial budget. But before I get into this financial budget, Madam Speaker, I want to raise a point of order. I don't understand why we have an honorable member purporting to be a Gen Z, and we can all see this is a Mubaba who forgot to take his diabetes medicine.
Point of order, Madam Speaker, sir.
No,
Point of order, Madam Speaker, sir.
He had his time.
Point
Let
of
me talk.
order.
First
Point
of
of
all,
order. She
first of
must
all,
withdraw and
take
apologize.
First
She must
of all,
withdraw and apologize.
Okay.
Madam
I-
Speaker, sir.
apologize.
Can you help
Madam
me?
Speaker,
Dare?
sir.
Apologies.
Thank you. Decorum.
Apologies,
Please.
But I'm raising this because I don't understand why you are calling us women. We are baddies. We are baddies. These are the people who are tear-gassing baddies in the streets. You have no
Can you
business.
focus on your budget proposals?
Sir. Dare?
No.
Dare?
But
It's
Madam
her
Speaker,
time.
sir,
First of all, it's Madam, please.
Okay, let me get into my budget.
Let finish. Sir. Dare? Thank you.
You know, Madam Speaker, it's because I feel very hurt when someone calls me a woman instead of a baddie and they share the same tailor with Gashagwa.
point of order. Point of order.
Okay.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Okay. Now, this is how I propose to raise the financial budget for 2024 as the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary. Madam Speaker, I'll start by highlighting the tax measures that we are going to be implementing, and I'll highlight several of them. The tax policy measures and amendments to the Income Tax, Excise Duty Act, Value-Added Tax, and miscellaneous fees and levies. Madam Speaker, I propose to amend the income tax to include a tax of 10% or to 50,000 Kenya shillings per annum, whichever is lower, to all sex workers, especially in Koinange and Kilimani area. We all know the important work they do is the backbone of the economy and the driving force for the male population. Taxing of these goods and services will help to evenly distribute income in our homes. Madam Speaker, in relation to this, I propose an amendment to the withholding tax, the Tax Act, to include a tax of 20% to all spouses who withhold conjugal rights to their spouses. And an additional 5% if you give the headache excuse. This will help to steer the country in the right direction with more stable families and increase the number of children born that can become police officers to collect bribes, increasing our revenue and GDP. Madam Speaker, I propose an amendment to the value-added tax to include a tax on podcasts by people who term themselves high-value men and women. These are the likes of Andrew Kibe, Amerix, and the like. These people are a big influence on our youth, the Gen Z, and I propose a tax of 20% per episode. And if they use the term lambistic, we include another 5%. I propose an amendment to the Excise Duty Act to include a 35% tax on all those people who pretend to exercise, then pose on Instagram with exercise wear. And we all know they had a gastric balloon or Ozempic. I propose an amendment to the Miscellaneous Fees and Levies Act to tax every Kenyan citizen who takes that photo of Kwaheri Kenya at the airport and posts those things online. And every person who comments, utarudi too. This will immensely propel our tourism industry and create a good brand image when tourists only see Karibu Kenya and not Kwaheri Kenya. I also propose a reduction on the import tax and duty for harriers by 10%. Up to a limit of 328,500, whichever is lower. This will increase the number of anti-war harriers and cougars. This is going to ensure job creation for the young men. Madam Speaker, I would also like to propose introduction of new acts. Our fiscal spending has grown over the last 1 year, and introduction of these acts will support the government in meeting the budget for year 2024. I propose a new act called Kudade Tax. Every person who identifies as they or them to pay double tax as there are two people. This will help us to double the expected revenue in a shorter period. Madam Speaker, the last tax that I want to introduce is called the Anguka Nayo Act. This tax will be to all the people who are a nuisance in our society. Wanguke nayo. First, we'll start with Charlene's wigs. Madam Speaker, that thing makes me emotional. Those bird nests on her head can provide free pads for all school girls for 1 year. I propose a tax to Kare Nyamu for just breathing. And an additional 20% for every time she opens her mouth to speak rubbish. And many more. I could go on and on. Like Oscar Sudi for looking like President Moi at 94 and he's 44. Many others. I'll just mention them by name but not get into it. Embarambamba, KRG the Don, Bahati, and even my honorable member sometimes.
Point of order. Point of order, Madam Speaker. You cannot mention a member without substantive motion.
Dare?
Dare?
Please, it's not your time.
Thank you, Madam.
Continue.
Linos or Titos, whatever your name is. This is not about you. This is about the well-being of Kenyans. I am here to look after them. I'm here to make sure they live comfortably. And that is why those are my proposals for the 2024 budget.
Wonderful. Please give it up for both of them. All right. Now, I'm going to ask them some specific questions. Let's go into some specifics of their budget proposals. So, Titus, let's start with a sector that's often received the biggest share of the national budget, education. Before telling us your plans for education, first tell us about your educational background.
My educational background is replete with certificates, degrees, masters, diplomas, and what have you.
Fake.
Okay,
However,
which institution, sir? From which institution?
let us focus on the real issues because the institution is irrelevant. What matters is the education that I carry in my brains, Madam Speaker, sir. Some of us do not have the privilege of attending very good schools, but as a result...
Which schools, sir?
Madam Speaker, you are banning right now, and
Madam Speaker,
it
people
is the
from
considered
Punjab-
opinion of the
Punjabi
honorable members.
University is not a university.
Madam Speaker, can
Okay,
you please
what are your
protect
plans
me?
for education, sir?
Can you please protect me from my opponent? Now, Madam Speaker, sir,
Madam! Can we say it together?
we will need,
Madam!
Madam.
yeah, Madam Speaker, the standing orders say that we should say Madam Speaker, sir. So I'm in compliance with the standing orders. According to standing order number 62, an honorable member should refer to the chair of the session as Mr. Speaker, sir, or Madam Speaker, sir. Those are the standing orders of the National Assembly. And I swore, I took an oath to defend the Constitution and the standing orders of this House. Now, I'll delve into raising resources for education. To tap into the selfie craze, every selfie uploaded on social media with the hashtag education for all shall be taxed at 5 shillings per post. We hope to raise 500 million shillings annually that we shall use in the education sector. In addition to that, Madam Speaker, sir, each time a politician makes an embarrassing public statement or contradicts themselves in public, they will be fined 10,000 Kenyan shillings. And given the frequency of such occurrences with our politician, this should be a significant revenue stream, potentially funding half of our education budget. Madam Speaker, sir, we will also partner with major brands to place advertisements in textbooks. For every page sponsored, companies will donate a portion of their profits to the school. This will reduce the cost of textbooks for students, and we intend to raise 200 million shillings from these initiatives. This money, amounting to a lot of million shillings, collectively will go towards the reintroduction of maziwa ya Nyayo. In my government, our children's health is a top priority. So we will bring back the program, but this time it will be camel milk. Why camel milk, you may ask? Camel milk is naturally sweet, which means that will save on sugar and spend the money on the aforementioned fight against corruption. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, sir. Those are my proposals.
All right, thank you, Titus. It's just Madam. Thank you. All right, Ruth, can you speak about your educational background before we get into your views, your policies?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Babes. Because I
Just
have
Madam.
papers, I can talk about
Madam Speaker,
Wait,
point
you had
of
your
order.
turn.
there is information that the House should benefit from. Point of information, Madam Speaker, sir.
No.
It has come.
Please.
Madam,
Please.
we are
You
following,
had your time.
we are following house orders.
It's your time.
Thank you.
Then I yield the time to you now.
Thank you. I understand why my honorable member is interrupting you. Because if you have papers, you can't interrupt another member. So I'll start with my educational background. Before my educational background, I'll start with my upbringing. When I was raising chicken in Sugoi,
Can you stick to the educational backgrounds, please, Madam?
Okay.
We don't, just the education. Thank you. Thank you. Institutions, thank you.
All right. The first certificate I have is a certificate of good conduct. This shows my conduct. I have conducted a lot of things. Allow me to bring it now to my education. I
Thank you.
served as a conductor on the route of Eldoret, where now I started my primary school.
That's wonderful. What educational institutions have you been certified by, please?
Madam Speaker, I was certified by the University of Nairobi.
Aviation College.
Dare?
Quorum.
It's not your turn, sir. Dare?
I withdraw,
Please,
but you have had.
continue.
There were a lot of enemies who after me who have taken me to court to dispute it. I was also awarded an honorary PhD,
From?
Zetek. Zitek.
Okay.
But away from that, the more important thing is how are we going to educate Kenyans? Because that is more important than me. It is not about me. I am just a humble servant, you see? So my education doesn't matter. It is about them, not me. So, Madam Speaker, let me talk about the things I'll do around education.
Kindly.
In terms of higher education, we're going to have a budget of 28.2 billion that has been allocated to universities and colleges to make it possible for the youth to join and experience Freshers' Bash and make bad decisions and thus learn from their mistakes. Because if you don't learn from your mistakes, how will we grow as a country? Because I've seen the mistakes my member has made, and that's why I'm doing better already. I am already progressing. If my honorable member had a certificate, he would understand what I'm talking about.
What are your budget proposals? Don't focus
Sir.
on the member. What are your budget proposals?
De-
Sorry, Madam Speaker, sir. Quorum.
And this
Thank
budget
you.
will help some members of the House who don't have an education to go for Gumbaro because they need it. And I'm not saying anyone in particular. I'm just saying that some
Madam
members need to be educated. You
Decorum.
get what I'm saying, Madam Speaker, babes? That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, those were their thoughts on education. Let's move on to another crucial sector, agriculture. When it comes to agriculture, will we reap what we sow, Titus?
To ensure food security, we will allocate 70 billion Kenyan shillings to farmers to purchase locally made organic fertilizers from honeysuckers, ensuring that we will have a constant supply of food. Basically, we shall be converting every home into a cottage fertilizer industry, creating additional revenue for every home. Madam Speaker, sir, when it comes to market access for our farmers, we shall be waiting for the Ministry of Roads and Transport to finish construction of roads before we can guarantee market access. In the meantime, we are encouraging our farmers to be patient because patience pays. In this one, my payer Kenyans, our hands are tied.
Wait, what? Okay, thank you. Ruth, what are your plans for
Thank
the
you,
agriculture
Madam
sector?
Speaker. We are facing many challenges in this sector, like importing of maize. I believe in the saying of fake it till you make it. We are going to keep creating fake fertilizer until you're able to make real fertilizer. I also propose to create a tax on imported weed at 25%. We have local farmers who are growing several strains of weeds, and we need to support our local economy. For Kenyans, by Kenyans, smoked by Kenyans.
All right. Good points each. All right. From Twitter Spaces, TikToks, from OnlyFans to incognito mode, the ICT sector is a pillar of the national budget. Tell us how your budget addresses these aspects. Please, Titus.
So, Madam Speaker, we will borrow resources to invest in the digital highway across the country. We propose to borrow 3 Eurobonds to the tune of 1 trillion Kenyan shillings over a period of 5 years.
Reject.
This will be done through a public-private sector framework. The amount will be spent as follows. 200 billion shillings will go to labor and training. 100 billion shillings will go to infrastructure development. 300 billion will go to kickbacks will go to consultancy and facilitation. 100 million will go to ghost workers in keeping up with our traditions and heritage. Even when you buy a mzinga, you pour some for the ancestors. We need to give some ghost workers some money lest they visit their wrath on us. We are also rolling out a comprehensive program dubbed Digital Cows for E-Herders. We will introduce digital cows. These are virtual cows that you can trade in the Nairobi Virtual Exchange. You can buy, you can sell, you can even milk them. This will move a huge part of our population into the blockchain technology. while preserving our cultural heritage using Bitcoin. You know, Gen Zs are the forefront of change in this country, and we have not left them out. My government will tear down the current parliament walls and rebuild them out of cardboard boxes. This is to show that we are always open for conversation with them. Karibuni sana, Madam Speaker, sir.
Thank you. Ruth, kindly tell us your plans for the ICT sector, Ruth.
Madam Speaker, before I get into that, someone who has a kabambe cannot be talking about ICT sector. We already have lions on TikTok. Why are we talking about digital cows? We have roses and lions. And my plan for the ICT sector is we are going to allocate 6 billion shillings to hire laptops for children who are in nursery schools and daycares. This is to ensure that our kids start to develop the necessary skills early enough so that they can be tapping the laptop and getting their dollars. That's my strategy.
All right. Okay, very good points. Now, Weshimiwa, let me switch it up and bring it to Ruth first. Quickly take us through your plans for job creation, Ruth.
Thank you, Madam Speaker,
Job
babes.
creation.
Thank you, babes. We will have a partnership with the European Union to have 100,000 TikTokers to go teach white people how to dance. This will empower the youth and increase foreign currency. We are also investing 19.8 billion shillings to research to find a quick cure for hangovers so Kenyans can carry on working after a long weekend, so that the youth can retain their jobs. Ama niaje, my friends? Wait, ongeza hapo. Kuna cure.
All right, thank you for that.
So,
Titus.
when it comes to jobs creations, we have 3 interventions that we hope to implement. Kenya is known as a leading exporter of high-quality tea and coffee. Why settle for just exporting tea and coffee when we can export our hard-working citizens instead? Who needs jobless doctors and engineers at home when they can be working as nannies and janitors abroad? In any case, many of our doctors are unhappy with their pay here. Thus, exporting them will give us an opportunity to pay them better, because those jobs abroad earn much more. We have also noticed a spike in mobile money transfers, especially for fare. We shall propose to increase the money transfer levy, specifically those for sending fare, and the same will be directed towards training our youth on how to access online jobs through TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. Finally, Madam Speaker, we have allocated 5.3 million shillings to the tourism industry in Kenya, specifically the poverty tourism industry, which is a huge contributor to the employment of beach boys in Mombasa. Kenya has a very rich and diverse variety of slums that white people do not know about. Therefore, there are lesser known slums that we will be advertising abroad. Like, very few Kenyans know tourists know Mukuru kwa Njenga. In Kisumu, there is Kondele, and in Mombasa, there is Bombolulu. All those are national assets that we shall use to employ our youths. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
All right, thank you. Again, to you, Ruth, first. Kenya is a land rich in raw materials, yet we see huge trade deficits in our imports and exports. How is your budget going to impact the manufacturing sector?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The manufacturing sector is very critical in this country. We have listened keenly to the Gen Z, and we are going to open a factory in Waweru to manufacture undergarments. On Twitter, the youth kept talking about Ngodha. And Ngodha, I assure you, we are going to have 100,000 Ngodhas produced annually. In touching manufacturing, we cannot forget energy, because energy goes hand in hand with manufacturing. There is a blackout problem in our country, and it is in my admission that KPLC should take responsibility for this. we are going to set aside 4.7 billion shillings to be able to purchase wax candles as a backup when the lights go off. Trust me, they will. Thank you.
Over to you, Titus.
Madam Speaker, when it comes to manufacturing, the Gen Z have told us very clearly that we want locally manufactured products. We shall invest in a promise manufacturing unit to help both our local and regional politicians to manufacture fake promises at a cheaper cost. This will improve the balance of trade between Kenya and its neighboring countries. We will create 349 direct jobs in Parliament to talented liars across 290 constituencies. And the multiplier effect will cascade down to the county governments, where we shall have at least 1,400 MCAs. I haven't even addressed myself to the governors and the appointees that they will be coming up with. All those are job opportunities for our people that we will introduce through the manufacturing sector.
Let's talk about housing, Titus. Specifically, affordable housing. Does it mean a bigger tax burden on the Mwananchi? What's your take?
Not necessarily. In fact, it could mean more money in the hands of the Wananchi. My proposal for housing my esteemed countrymen is premised on the fact that there are a lot of wasted resources in current family units as it is. We have millions of men and women who have secret spouses who live in different abodes. To this effect, my proposal is that all the secret families will be merged with the main family to save on many things. From there on, all the side families' homes can be leased and taxed at 15% going into the consolidated fund, because we need to create jobs for our youth.
Thank you. Ruth, what's your take on affordable housing?
Madam Speaker, I've been listening to the youth of this country, and they have complained about many things. One of them is the housing levy. They said reject. Did you say reject? They said reject. And that's what we're going to do. We cannot keep taxing the youth over things they don't even have. So in our proposal...
Madam Speaker, point of information.
No. You had
She's
your time.
misleading the House. Who does not have a house here? Wananchi.
Thank you.
We have houses.
Sir,
You already had your time, sir.
proceed,
I
Ruth.
propose we drop the housing levy. And they say, the youth said these things. They said they only fear 3 things: marriage, low battery, and no bundles. And because they only fear marriage, they will not be starting new families. They can live with their parents forever. So we are not going to be having the housing levy after that. They stay home with their parents. That's my proposal.
Thank you. All right, moving on to youth affairs and the creative economy and sports. Titus, how does your financial proposal handle this?
When it comes to the Ministry of Youth Affairs, this whole budget is a Gen Z-friendly budget. This is the budget for the youth affairs. So we shall be using this whole budget to attack everything from unemployment to lack of education to lack of bundles for our young people. Our young people rely on bundles a lot. In fact, they are scared of MBs ikifika 2 MB. So all these interventions will ensure that they have money so that they can buy bundles for the youth.
Thank you. Ruth?
Madam Speaker, babes, I propose...
Just madam. Proceed.
Okay. I propose to introduce, the youth are very dear to my heart. I have young people in my house, and they are very dear to me. Youth affairs, creative economy, and sports. Sports has been a long neglected thing in our country. I propose to introduce the Night Runners Olympics. This is going to create a forum for all people in the Nyanza and Western region to use all their energy instead of focusing on calling patanisho. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. So now I'll start with you, Ruth. What about roads and public works, Ruth?
As a country, we are moving away from traditional ways. we have seen the Gen Z and millennials coming. So we are going to move from traditional ways like using wood and charcoal to cook. This means even our transport should change. So we are allocating 40.2 billion to Kenya Airways to buy more planes so that all Kenyans can fly. We should not be wasting money on the roads, surely.
Fly to where, Ruth?
Wherever they want.
Thank
Madam
you,
Speaker,
Titus.
we shall be proposing an amendment to the Roads Act to include mandatory mapping of all potholes across the country. We are working with Google to ensure that every Kenyan has the power to avoid potholes and the power to report all potholes to government. This will in turn save the exchequer an additional 2 billion shillings a day, which will be directed to other sectors of our economy.
All right. Coming to our last two questions. Titus, quickly take us through your plans for the security sector. How are you planning to secure this country financially?
Madam Speaker, sir, to accommodate more Kenyans in the police force, we shall be seeking an amendment to the Police Act to allow Class 8 dropouts to join the force. The law as it is very unconstitutional since
Objection,
it discriminates against those who do not finish school.
Kindly.
The rationale for this is inclusivity, as enshrined in our Constitution. In any case, most people have the qualifications, but they cannot bribe their way to the force. So if you have the bribe and you have no education, we will give you an easier way of joining the force by taking your bribe and taxing it at 16%, as we give you an opportunity to be brutal. That way, we intend to raise an additional 60 million to the Inspector General's kitty.
All right. Ruth, what do you have to say about that?
Madam Speaker, I'm flabbergasted. I'm shocked. These are the people preying on our youth. These are people in primary school. That is concerning. It's concerning. But for me, I have better plans for our security force. For internal security, we will motivate our police officers by allocating 5.3 billion to send them for fully paid vacation and add another 3 billion to buy more tear gas with extra flavors so that shisha and vape buddies don't feel left out, surely. We need to be equal opportunities for everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, guys. Finally, before we take a vote, let me ask you, what do you have in store for foreign affairs, Ruth? Can you take us first?
Thank you, Madam. In line with international best practices, we plan on raising money by sending more police to Ukraine and Gaza as influencers. We have seen their huge influence in bribe collection and resolving conflict when there is an accident on the road. We have heard the youth. They say they don't want us to borrow money from the IMF and the World Bank. From now on, we are going to use our own Fuliza limits, Timiza, and Mshwari. That is how we are going to make sure we don't borrow from other foreign companies. Thank you.
All right, Titus.
With regards to foreign affairs, we shall restrict travel to only essential travel to the following countries: USA, Germany, India, China, France, UK, Canada, South Korea, Japan, Africa in general. We shall not
Africa is not a
travel
country,
to
sir.
the following countries: Burkina Faso, Uganda, Russia, Ukraine, Kosovo, and Macedonia. We shall also support Baba to clinch the AU Commission chairmanship, seeing that his Mandamano services will no longer be required by the government of Kenya. The Gen Z have shown us that they are better and more effective at this. We shall also be signing bilateral agreements with China to provide us with more lethal tear gas, as our professional protesters have developed strong defenses against current strains. In fact, they are using it as shisha now. Can you imagine? They are the only things that inform, these are the only things that will inform our foreign currency, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. All right. Let's give it up, first of all, for our two finance ministers. Now, in line with our mandate to have public participation, we open up the floor. If anyone has a question for either of our finance ministers, we will take a question each.
So the honorable member said she would introduce the Karen Nyamu tax, the Oscar Sudi tax. We didn't hear anything about corrupt officials by this member. So I'm looking forward to hearing how he'll handle corrupt officials in.
We will deal with corruption.
Corrupt officials from Titus. You're addressing corrupt officials. How are you going to deal with that?
Decisively and firmly.
Madam
That's
Speaker,
wonderful. Please, can we have some specifics?
Madam Speaker, these are the people we were mentioning. How can he deal with himself? He's the corrupt official.
Okay, decorum. Please,
So-
can we have specifics, Member Titus? Please,
What do you
find
mean
them.
by specifics?
What is decisive and what
You
is?
see-
What are you going to do?
You see, we gave ourselves a constitution. It's not up to the Minister of Finance to prosecute corrupt individuals. But I can tell you, on our part, in terms of administrative measures taken to fight corruption, they shall be firm and decisive. Now, as to whether
Such
the courts,
as, such as,
whether
please.
the courts will convict them, that
Sir.
will depend on the preponderance of evidence. that
Madam
will be-
Speaker, he has no points.
Wait, I really want to press on this issue.
Yes.
Such as, for example, what are these firm and decisive measures? Please give us one example for the love of God.
First of all, we shall suspend them as soon as they are mentioned in any corruption scandal. I shall also form a task force to ensure that all corruption incidences are investigated thoroughly by a competent body and they will be taken to court. We are a country that believes in the rule of law. We cannot turn ourselves into a village baraza and start lynching people just because they have been accused. As
Madam
for
Speaker.
example, my opponent
No,
here
he's the corrupt
has
one.
been
What are we
jumping
doing here?
on.
There.
For example, Madam Speaker, you asked me for specifics. I want to go to specifics. Allow me to go to the specifics because
You
I
did.
have specifics. So here is the thing. Madam, my opponent here, the honorable member, has accused me without an iota of truth that I am a corrupt individual.
Everyone
The
knows.
fact that I just bought 2 Range Rovers worth 49 million does not make me corrupt. It just makes me an opportunistic individual, which is to be contradistinguished from corrupt.
With a salary of 1 million, how do you have 2 Range Rovers? I know you are farm in Eldoret. It's a quarter acre. How do you have 2 Range Rovers? Sir, this is the things we want to deal with as a country. These are the things we want to pull
You see,
out and root
I'm
out
not
as a
even
country.
going to talk about.
Because
Can you
this is
imagine
concerning.
Alright.
from the proposals of my opponent? Can you imagine? She wants to tax sanitary pads. Sanitary pads.
Who
She-
talks about sanitary pads?
What kind of leaders do we have?
Who
They
talks
don't even
about
care
that?
about the women of Kenya. According
We
to
are
our
baddies.
proposals, they
Correction,
include
we are
those
baddies, not
15%.
women.
No, but you cannot tax sanitary
You
pads.
keep calling her
You
sir.
need to
What
give-
do you mean? What do you know about women?
No, I am complying with the standing orders of the...
Babes,
I
Babes,
am
talk to him.
complying with
Babes,
the
talk to
standing
him. You
orders.
can't talk to him anymore.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, decorum. Can we say decorum? One more time,
You see,
All right,
don't make things personal. We can all be personal.
This is not about you, it's about our country,
We
our
know.
citizens, the patriots, the people of Kenya, the
cannot
citizens,
mention
the
individuals.
Chisonis,
You
the
cannot
criminals,
mention
the people we are
No,
fighting for.
you cannot
are
mention
the people.
individuals.
You are the
cannot
people we
mention
are fighting
individuals.
for. You
You cannot
are the
mention
people
individuals
of this
without
country that
evidence.
we're fighting
You cannot
for.
mention
It is you.
individuals without
We are
evidence.
doing this for
Provide
you.
evidence, and then we shall deal with
Madam
it.
Speaker.
No, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker. we
Behind
have
your
been
podium,
telling-
behind your
Some
podium,
of us
please.
were brought up in the streets. And if you want us
Yes, you
to
are
go
for
to
the streets. You are for the
just
streets.
because
What
we have
behavior
a
is
suit,
this? What behavior is
just
this?
because we are dressed up in a suit does not mean we can
Yes,
go to
but
the
we
streets.
know you are a hooligan.
We have spent
You
our
are a
time in the
hooligan.
trenches.
You are a
We have
hooligan.
spent our
We
time
know
in
you.
the trenches.
We know you.
Yeah?
Madam Speaker.
Are you done? Thank you. Hey, can we say there?
Cora.
Remind them there?
Cora.
Please. All right. Unless there's any other questions from the floor. Is there? All right, sir. Here, the microphone is coming. Please have sense and decorum.
We want to know on the budget, we have pilipili manga flavor in, but we also want to know which other flavors do we have in stock. Like we want.
So, we are already working on local productions.
Yes.
We are trying to stop the imports of those pilipili mangas you are talking about because we want to encourage more growing of mukombero in Luyaland.
Okay. Will we have pineapple flavor in
I want to answer that.
Give Ruth a chance to
I want
also
to answer
answer.
that because it's a matter that is very dear to me. I talked about vapes. And we talked about shisha. Why can't tear gas have the same flavors? I want to see pineapple mint. I want to see strawberry. I want to see lemon. I need to see honey and ginger. Because people can't be tear gassed with the same thing every day like it's a gender reveal. Blue pink, blue pink. We are not at a baby shower. We need adult tear gas for adults in this nation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
All right. Thank you for your public participation. You're a great public. And now I would like to give our ministers the chance to give their conclusions or closing remarks before we decide which budget we're going to implement. All right, final remarks. We'll start with you, Titus.
To improve the living standards of Kenyans, we must reject her finance bill.
Focus on your finance bill. not
To
mine.
ensure that the children of Kenya enjoy camel milk, we must reject our finance bill. To ensure that we
Focus
have
on
money
your
for
issues.
the
What has
digital
yours got to do with
highway,
mine?
we
Madam
must
Speaker, what
reject
is
our
this?
finance bill.
Decorum.
To ensure that our women are not taxed when
Madam
they purchase sanitary pads, we must reject our finance bill. And I'm going to ask all of you to help me reject her finance bill because it proposes things that are going to make life and the cost of living very expensive for our country. I beg to move.
Thank you, Titus.
Madam Speaker,
Ruth, closing
he
remarks.
did not even talk about his own finance bill. He focused on mine because mine is the better one. And I want to conclude by
We have
saying,
to reject
you had your
Hey.
time. I want to say this in conclusion. If we adopt this finance bill, we will be able to meet our financial obligations and even remain with change to buy new curtains for State House and other confidential expenditure, and still have enough money for our leaders to steal without having to lie about oyster measures.
Do you mean austerity measures?
That's what I said, oyster.
Proceed.
I urge the House to pass this bill as it is, with no amendments, so that we can move forward as a country. I will end by reading the words of our current national anthem. I, kudade. I, mina duteta. Nina kanamwa, ambanala. I, kudade. I, me, na duteta. God bless Kenya. And I want to say this to my opponents. It is not about reject, no, it's inject. And I want to say, Tito must go. Tito must go.
Ruth must
Tito
go.
must go.
Ruto must
Tito
go.
must go.
Ruto must
Tito
go.
must go.
All right.
Thank you, madam.
Please remember the theme of the evening, decorum. Don't let them drag you down, public. All right. We have heard from both our ministers. They have presented stuff for us to think about. So, have you made a decision? Yes. Which
Of course.
financial proposal are you? I'm not asking you. It's time for the public. Which financial proposal are we implementing with immediate effect? Is it Titus's?
No.
Gen Z, this is your budget.
Okay.
Gen Z, this is your budget.
Reject.
Hold decorum, please. One more time. If you're saying no, you're still cheering like it's loud. Like it's like you're no. If you are for Titus's proposal, cheer. If you are for Ruth's proposal. Cheer now!
Ruth Thomas.
Hey!
Okay.
Woo! Hey!
Decorum. Decorum.
Reject.
Unsportsmanlike conduct. However, I have to declare that Ruth's financial proposal goes